Hello and welcome. This is Roger Connect with Universal Accounting Center, and this is the podcast Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you as owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses to focus on those things that matter, to help you as a leader grow the business that you intended to build as you're offering quality accounting services and getting paid what you're worth. It's here on the show that we address various topics and most importantly have on experts each and every week to address those things that you need to be aware of as you're running your company. And today is going to be a wonderful example of that. We have as a guest Kasey Anton. She happens to be the brains behind Spark Business Consulting and the author of Profit First for Restaurants. A former restaurateur in Boston, she has an excellent perspective with over 2 decades of experience in the industry. Kasey is an expert in turning restaurant chaos into organized success. Through her work at her company, Spark Business Consulting, she has identified winning and losing strategies from hundreds of businesses, becoming a sought-after expert for entrepreneurs and restaurateurs alike. Leading a dynamic team of Sparkles, Kasey is a passionate person about making numbers approachable and business profitable. When she's not advising clients, speaking at conferences, or having fun on podcasts like today, she's busy being a mom, world traveler, avid reader, and learner, a guest entrepreneur teacher as well. Expect a dash of humor and a wealth of practical wisdom with our conversation today. So Kasey, welcome to the show.
Wow. I love that intro. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Well, that's the life you're leading. So it's a very appropriate one. And I'm going to get into a variety of things, one of which you said world travelers. So we're going to definitely dive into that a little bit. But I'd like to just start with a little bit of an introduction for our listeners. Obviously, as a profit first professional, as a restaurateur, you've got a unique perspective. So I want to just, first of all, share a little bit of what got you into starting businesses, being a restaurateur, and then the transition perhaps into accounting. Real brief though.
Yeah. So for some reason, at the age of 6, I knew I wanted to be in restaurants, and no one in my family was in restaurants, and even my extended family. And for some reason, there was something around restaurants, around celebrations, really, I think it was what it was. Joy and celebrations is what I knew I wanted to be a part of. So I used to create these, play restaurants in my house for my parents. And then I started cooking and things like that. And as I grew older, my parents did not want me to go into the restaurant business. It's too hard, too demanding. You don't make any, it's failure rate, blah, blah, blah. So, I took their advice. I went and got a regular degree in communications and marketing, minor in business from University of Rhode Island. As I did that. And then the minute I graduated, I got a job in a restaurant.
Wow.
At the Chart House, which then was a big chain company of a high-end steakhouse. Yeah. So I did that. I got in there. I got into their management training program, which at the time was like the premier management training program. I did all that. It eventually led me to Boston, where I am now, where I then discovered the world of small boutique restaurants, which I loved even more, and eventually culminated in finding some investors and with a couple of partners opening my own, and then eventually 2 restaurants. And I thought, this is great. We were living like rock stars, to be honest with you, Roger, for a little while. And then September 11th happened during this time. And after that, things just really were as a different landscape. It was a different dining landscape. It was a different world then. And while we held on for a few more years after that, it was never quite the same. It was definitely a struggle. And about 2006, 2007, I had just gotten married. I was about to have my first child. And I thought, okay. And the restaurant was really winding down. And I thought, okay, this is a new chapter in my life. Mm-hmm. So, I sold the restaurants. What am I going to do now? I didn't know, because all I'd known was restaurants in college to this point. And I took inventory of my skills. And as it turned out, I was really good with the numbers in my restaurant, because I had to be to keep it open for as long as I did.
Yeah.
Before having to just shut it down or going bankrupt, right? I had to know the numbers. I had to understand how to follow them. So I got really good at that. And I thought, oh, maybe I could help out another restaurant with their numbers. And I started this little bookkeeping business because I got really good at bookkeeping. And I went to this, I'll tell you what happened. I went to this networking group. It was a BNI group, Business Networking International, right? Down by me. I'd never heard of it. I went in there. And that very first day after I gave my 60-second presentation, I think I had 12 people lined up. I'm in a line, hand raised, waiting to talk to me about my bookkeeping services. And these were painters, insurance people, realtors, all needing help with their numbers. And I knew from that day on, I'm on to something here.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd only known restaurants at the time. And I'm like, I only know restaurant accounting. So then I'm like, sure, I know accounting. So I ended up going into these other types of businesses, and sure enough, 2 + 2 = 4 there too. And not only that, it was way easier than doing a restaurant P&L.
Yeah.
Like this was easier. And so from that day forward, I grew exponentially my business and working in all types until I realized I need to become more niche focused. But I grew all types, and now we're one of the bigger bookkeeping accounting firms. From what I hear in the country is from what they tell me over at Profit First. But definitely here on the East Coast, we're one of the bigger ones, and it's been great.
You know, I'm loving this story because many of my listeners, like you, do not have a formal background in accounting. Coincidentally, they just kind of gravitate to it through the experiences that they have in life. And all of a sudden, they find themselves offering very quality bookkeeping, accounting, tax-related services. And that's very, very important to hear because clearly the education can be very valuable. It's an accelerator, if you will, to it. But there are definitely people running very successful accounting businesses without that formal training. So that's, I think, a very telltale sign here of your success. But I'm going to back up a little bit because I really like the narrative of the restaurant. The few people that I know that own restaurants, some, like you were explaining, started because of the celebratory element that exists in a restaurant. We're not talking fast food. We're talking about the restaurant. And being a restaurant, they wanted to provide like an experience, an ambiance, something that was celebratory or something that people could come and experience together. Well, that's pretty motivating, but that's different than a chef's perspective. A chef goes into it with the culinary art. I've got this experience surrounding food that I want to bring to the table. So how do you marriage the business with the chef to say, here's what we're going to be putting on the plate?
With a lot of luck, really. That is hard. And honestly, you have to work with a chef, or the chef needs to be able to understand that they're great at one thing and maybe not so great at the other.
Okay.
And if they're willing and open to listening, and I'm finding, now we work with hundreds of restaurants, I'm finding that more and more, a lot of them have to feel the flames before they come to the side to say, okay, somebody needs to show me how to do these numbers. But having accurate records to show them is key for them to really get on board and have a restaurant that will be successful starting today and into the future for them. Because other than that, they're literally flying by the seat of their pants. Yeah. And I address actually this in the book that I just wrote, Profit First Restaurants. I talk about this because I had worked in chef-driven restaurants for a very long time in Boston and around and other places too. But the chef was just like, I'm running a 30% food cost all day long. But when you get in there and you truly do a menu mix on them and you do a food cost, like I have an example in there where they were running a 47%. The chef had no idea because his mind was saying 30%. Yeah. But the numbers are showing. And so if you can present to your chef, you have a chef-driven client, and you can present to them and sit down and say, here's how I'm coming up with the numbers. They have to see that because they're never going to believe you otherwise. Yeah. Here's how I'm coming up. Tell me where I'm wrong. This dish is 47% or overall. And then they'll come there, they're not going to, most likely they're not going to argue with logic. And then they'll start to do things differently. They'll start to see things differently, and they'll start to listen to you. I love this because it's kind of which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the chef that's actually coming with a great idea that they want to run a business and it's a restaurant? Or is it a business person who says, I see a business opportunity and I think we can do it being a restaurant? And so, who's leading the game here? What's coming first, the business idea or the chef saying, I've got a great menu I want to put on the plate? So, the famous quote is, the last thing you need to know how to do to open a restaurant is cook. And that's 100% true. So I'll tell you what's coming first.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, with all the Food Network shows that I see, I could definitely say that there's an appreciation for it. It doesn't matter at the end. It's a business before it is a plating. All right. So the idea of now you running a number of successful restaurants and now finding yourself in the bookkeeping seat, offering bookkeeping accounting services. This is fascinating to me because clearly you were able to kind of tap into a need that businesses had. And the thing I think that you brought to the table, and I'm going to ask this as a question, is your perspective as a business owner versus that of as an accountant. What would you add to that?
Oh, that is 1,000% true, Roger. 1,000. I think that is probably why I grew so fast. And by the way, of all the, every client we've ever had is by referral. Every single one. I've never, ever advertised for anything. And it's because of that. We approach the numbers through the business owner's eyeballs. Like that is how we approach it. And it is a completely different game if you're going to approach it from an accountant seat. It is completely different. And I want to say over and over and over again, the feedback that we got, even just off of our deep dive calls, and that's the initial kind of intake call we have with a hot lead type thing. Even at the end of that call, I'm going to tell you, probably 8 times out of 10, that lead, that potential client is saying, I'm not getting this from my accountant.
Yeah.
I'm not, they're not doing me any favors. Like, you understand me. And that's what I get. So it's coming from, I'm not even saying you have to necessarily own a restaurant to speak restaurant, but just being a business owner and being able to talk to them from a business owner perspective has spoken volumes about what we do, and is definitely probably one of the number one reasons why we're so successful as a consulting firm.
You know, one of the things that I'm hearing, and it's in many conversations that I'm having with owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses, is if they come from a business perspective, the things that are in the numbers are seen differently than the accountant who is doing the same work. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of the people that I work with that are owners of these firms, they have a therefore what kind of conversation with their clients. The numbers are nothing more than a means to an end, oftentimes in the conversations that they're having with their clients. And that's too often different from the accounting individuals that have the accounting background. Sometimes they just stop with the bookkeeping, accounting, and that's where it ends. And that's one of the critiques that I have of the accounting profession is I think we do need to get more into the therefore what discussions. Would you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. And as a matter of fact, this is super relevant because I want to say at least the two meetings I've had with clients over the last 7 days in this past week. And one of them, they brought on their CPA. I am not a CPA. I am a bookkeeper that was trained by owning a restaurant, right? So that's where I come from. But they brought their CPA on the call. And it's a restaurant group out of Texas, actually. And they had their CFO, they had their owners, they had their bookkeeper. And then they actually hired me as a profit first consultant to come in.
Excellent.
So we're all on this call together and we're kind of going through the financials. And basically the bottom line is the CPA said, well, I told him that the labor was high, and the end, like mic drop moment for him, the CPA. But I'm thinking, I know that because they can see it on their P&L, but that's not where it ends. That's not enough. They're not, they don't know what that means. They don't know what's next. They just feel like you're like giving them like, a deep minus on their report card. And then they're going to go home and, cook some more. Like, that wasn't enough to me. And it was interesting because in that moment I was like, oh, that's what all of my clients were telling me all these years, that they're not getting enough out of their accountants because, well, your costs are too high. Bye. No, there's so much more. They need so much more beyond that. They need more than the bad report card of financials. They need to, okay, these don't look so great, but here's what we can do to fix it. And let's brainstorm on some other things we can do to really turn this number around. Because you being a bookkeeper, an accountant, you do have this knowledge. You know how to do this. You can help them. And that's what they need. And I think not enough are doing that.
I love that you brought that up because I believe so many of the conversations I'm having now is moving into this advisory space. It's this idea that the accounting professional has a perspective that's very unique. We see things that aren't being seen by the business owner. One, they're too involved with the day-to-day operations, but two, it's kind of like, in my mind, it's like the Matrix. When you step back from the image, all you're seeing are these green digital zeros and ones that are cascading down. But what's fascinating is as accounting professionals, that information, the zeros and the zeros and ones actually make sense. It's telling a story. It's a narrative going on here. We can interpret and read it. The business owner sees it and they're just confused and it's just frustrating. It's overwhelming. But to the accounting professional, it's like, can you see that? Can you see the story here? Is this standing out to you as well? And they're like, I don't see what you're seeing. No, this is beautiful. This is pretty. Well, what we're supposed to do as accounting professionals is then move into that advisory space and become what I refer to as that translator, that interpreter of the accounting language. That's what's being displayed here in the P&L, in the balance sheet. So the beauty of all this is we're now asking the therefore what? We're having a conversation with the client of how do we now take what is and change it to our betterment, to become profitable. And like Mike Michalowicz in Profit First emphasizes, as you point out in Profit First for Restaurants, the idea here is now how do we make it a priority, intentional, deliberate? That's where we're going with all this. So that's where I want to now take our conversation. Advisory, do you find more of your time is spent doing the compliance work, preparing the financials, or with the client doing the advisory conversations?
Well, I'd say all of my time particularly is 100% advisory, all now, but it wasn't always, so I moved into that. It wasn't always that way, but with my team, so I have a team, there's 10 of us full time. And I would say that while they all started doing the compliance, by now it's probably 60-40, maybe 70-30 in terms of the advisory. Because sometimes that will take a little bit of time to gain the trust of the client. Sometimes, not always. Usually the referrals are coming to us and they want us for the advisory service. But sometimes they're just coming to us because they needed their books done because they're a shit show or whatever. Sorry.
Yeah.
So anyway, they go on. So once we start, here's what we do that I think that's different than a lot of other firms as well, is that we don't just send the month-end financials and say, attach, please find your September, blah, blah, blah. We don't. We send a Loom video, so a video, screen recording video, that we automatically do that, as well as sending the PDF. So we'll send the video, and then we're speaking to them in layman's terms so that they can understand, hey, here's your balance sheet. This is the spine of your business. Here's why it's important. Look at your cash. And we're just really like telling them, like a person on the street, like what's going on here. Now let's go to the P&L because this is the story. Let's look what the story is telling us today. And what did it tell us last period? And so we do this in a Loom and we try and keep them short because we know we don't have a lot of their time, right? But as soon as we started implementing that, and now that we do that, even for newer clients, they're like, oh, this isn't as scary. Oh, I kind of get what you're actually saying here. And now it opens them up to wanting to meet with us and wanting to respond and to understand the numbers and engaging so they will take our advice. Why don't you do this with your payroll? Why don't we do this? Try this. So all of that just has really opened the floodgates for them saying, what else can you do for me? Because now they come to us for everything. I think we have a whole marketing piece about being financial therapists, because in the end, that's kind of what we feel like most of the time.
Yeah.
Just financial therapy, talking them through their numbers and how they can do better. And they will do better. And we celebrate a lot because people forget to celebrate.
So there's two things here I really want to emphasize. One, your Loom narrative. That's something that I have found is hugely helpful as I'm speaking to firms that do exactly like what you did. One, I believe it takes, like I'm describing, these PDFs that you're attaching that say, here's your financials, and it's giving it a narrative because now you're able to, in the Loom video, do a screen share and talk through some of the highlights. And they're like, oh, when I look at those reports, I don't see what you're saying, what you're showing. Right. Now, when you do it and you're highlighting things, and maybe in the video, you're doing comparatives of here's last month to this month, here's what this was to budget. All of a sudden, you're drawing attention to a few things that they need to pay attention to. When if you just sent them the PDF, do they even open it? Or if they open it, do they see what you saw? No, the Loom video gives you that opportunity to point these things out. Now, the second part of this is it's documented. They can save that email. They can look back on that video when it's convenient, when they want to review it. They can listen to it a second, a third, a fourth time. But the third thing that I think is most important is you've now opened up a conversation. It's possible because of the things you shared in that short Loom video, they're going to say, hold on a second, Kasey said something there. I need to understand that better about my business. She mentioned something that it makes sense, but I need to go deeper on that. Now the narrative is leading to a conversation that they're having with you. They appreciate and value your services more. No longer is it this liability that they're paying for. It's this necessary evil of being in business that I have to do to be compliant. Now I'm like, holy cow, Kasey is giving me insights to my business that I'm not seeing because I'm too stuck in the weeds. And I need this perspective. I need Kasey's insights. I need her suggestions. Yeah. Now they're leaning on you, and this changes the whole relationship, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And so now they are leaning on us, which is probably why we have very low turnover. I've had clients with me since I started this company over 15 years ago. Most of the clients we have are with us 5, 6, 7, 10 years because they're leaning in. They want to know more. We're sort of the Cliff Notes version of their finances, so they can keep running the show and like, something's wrong here. Let me just check with Kasey. And then we can have a quick Loom video or a quick meeting saying, yep, this, go do it. And then, okay, great. And it's just to have us in their back pocket, I think, or any firm like ours in their back pocket to be able to go to when they know something's not right, but they're not quite sure about it and have us straighten them out from the financial viewpoint, which is kind of everything, if you ask me, when it comes to running a business, is huge for these companies. And I think that's why we charge a premium for these services. But then again, we charge a premium because we're giving them everything we got and we're studying this and we are the experts in these areas. And even before, I will say to the audience though, even before we became experts, here's the thing. It's not like I'm performing brain surgery, right? But I'm in for the front row seat of a lot of businesses in their books. So so I can see pretty easily what works, and I can certainly see what's not working. Meals and entertainment, things that are out. The owners taking money just for the sake of taking money rather than what the business can actually afford. Things like that. I can see that. I know I can speak to that. So whether there's not really being right or wrong, I'm just saying these are what the numbers are showing me. Maybe there's a story behind it. There's a story behind everything. That's fine. But I'm still okay to speak about it because I'm here for the business side. And I just took your course, the Universal Accounting course, Roger.
Oh, wow.
And I loved how it was accentuating how doing the books is from the business viewpoint. There is an owner viewpoint, but it is not the same. And it's kind of over here. And it just I literally got goosebumps when I first started reading through, and then how you brought that theme all the way through the course, because that is how I have been presenting this to clients for years. You are hiring me to stand up for your business.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for you, although I stand up for you too, but I'm here for your business, and I'm going to tell you what your business needs. And if you're beating it up and you don't realize it, I'm going to tell you that because I'm here to protect your business so we can grow this business. And I've always done it. So the fact that your course kind of speaks to that there are two ways to look at this business, but mainly the business viewpoint is the most important one.
Thank
and
you
the owners
so much.
Ones are different.
I really appreciate you saying that, because one of the things, I'm going to quote myself here, is I do believe that a business needs to become a self-sustaining, living, breathing entity apart from the business owner. And when you see it that way, all of a sudden the business owner has a different perspective of the company, but likewise, the accounting professional with whom they're collaborating and working has a different perspective of the company. It's like a third person in the room. And the three people talking each have different perspectives and insights, but the business needs to have a voice. And coincidentally, the accountant is that translator in that conversation. So I love how we're describing this. All right. So here's my next thing. Earlier, you brought up BNI, networking. It's the idea of this being a personal thing. Here's my point though. Love BNI, also am a member. But the point is you shared that you have a niche in the restaurant space, but you spoke of 12 people lining up that weren't necessarily all restaurants. There's a value in niching. There's a lot of conversation about why it's valuable and important, especially from a marketing point of view, pricing point of view, client understanding. But do you take on still clients that are outside of the restaurant space? Yes, we do. So here's my quick story on that. When I first started Spark, the bookkeeping and accounting consulting firm, I didn't know if it was going to make it. I didn't know where it was going to go. I was home with an infant and I was just trying something new. And then I had all these 12 people lined up in 12 different industries, and I just took everybody. Yeah. And for probably a good 5-6 years after, I still took everybody because I'm like, I can do this. Math is math no matter where you go. I can do this. And then it got really big and spread out. And then, it was probably maybe 8 or 9 years ago when I took a step back. I'm like, it was so hard to hire and keep staff then, because we expected the staff members to come in and their head on a swivel. Oh, I'm in this books. Oh, wait, now I got to think like a contractor. Oh, wait, now I got to think like a nonprofit. And it was impossible to train for all of these hats. Yeah. And nobody wanted to think that hard, to be honest with you. Yeah. So there was my few cores, 5 core people. They've all been with me for 9 years plus. We can do it, and we actually kind of get excited about it, but that's not everybody. And I couldn't grow like that. So then I decided, okay, we're now gonna niche down, and not gonna be exclusive, but we're gonna be niche specialization. So what I did was I did an inventory. We had, I think, about 200 clients at the time. And then there's a whole exercise. I forget. I think Mike McCallowitz might teach it, or it might be somewhere else. But there's an exercise where you can kind of rate your clients on what they pay you, and if you love them or if you cringe every time they call you type thing. Yeah, no, Mike talks about that. He does talk about that. So I did that exercise. And as it turned out, our top 20 clients all fell into, number one was restaurants. So thank God for that, really. But they did. So that's our biggest niche. And the next one was general contractors, probably because my husband was, started his own business, and we got to know that, and they need a lot of help. No offense, they just need a lot of help. So that was another one. Law firms, which was interesting because they also need a lot of help, and there's not a lot of people who understand how to do the 3-prong reconciliation. So we had that. We ended up coming up with five niches, and I had enough staff, and I felt like, okay, so we can work in these industries really well.
and be able to create tools, packages, and charge a premium because we're great at bridal, great at contractors, law firms, screen printers, and restaurants. So those are our main 5 that we would market to, that like those make up probably 90% of our clients. And then we have the rest, we just call them the bomb squad.
Yeah,
I don't even know where it came from. And that's if like our current clients decide they, that their wife is now going to be an interior designer from home, or, they have little things from here and there that we'll take on, but we're not we're not saying no. So it's not, niche exclusivity, right? We're not saying no necessarily. We're just not going to promote that we take on those clients, but we will promote the others. And I have the staff that can do that. But if you don't have a staff that can do it, the more niche down you can get, like literally, the better for you in so many ways, including financially and profitably. But so we have 5 now. And that's how we did it. That's how we did it. And it was the best. And when I did that exercise, Roger, I think I was like, why didn't I do this from day one? Well, I didn't know, but why didn't I do this 5 years ago? Because it has been a major game changer for us.
Well, it's hard day one simply because you need the business. You need to bring in the revenue. So you're going to take anyone and everyone. So I get it. At some point, there's that moment where you say, okay, there's a better way to do this because currently I am taking on anyone and everyone. So the thing I really value about your insight there, though, is how you chose to use the word exclusive versus niche. So often when I'm having conversations about niching and people are trying to consider, do they, should they associate niching as exclusivity, and it's not the same thing. It doesn't have to be that way. You can have clients that are outside of your niche. You can take, like you were describing, the spouse of the entrepreneur who wants to do a side gig or the next business they choose to start up. Well, clearly it may not be in the niche that you know them from, and they're starting a new business. Well, don't turn them away. Service that client there as well. So I think there's value in understanding that niching, what it means to me is you become very, very particular about your marketing, your messaging, your services as it relates to that industry. And because you're so good at it, you're going to be able to go deep with vocabulary, with understandings of their nuances. And at the end of the day, get paid well for that niche. But it doesn't mean that you can't have, like you have, 5 other areas that you also service. So that's phenomenal. Here's the next thing. Profit first. I've got 2 questions here. What drew you to profit first? Why did that seem like a natural complement to the accounting services you were offering? And then what caused you to say, oh, and I also need to write a book?
Oh, this is great. I love talking about this.
Okay.
And the story is in the book. So when I was on vacation in Ogunquit, Maine, when I had the book Profit First. It had been recommended to me by a few people over the prior year.
Okay.
So, okay, whatever. I'm on vacation. I love to read. When I go away, I love to read on vacation. I think I had like maybe a stack of 7 books. I remember it was a gorgeous July day. I go out to the lawn of this beautiful resort, and I have all books with me because it's literally right outside my hotel room. It's not like I was lugging them anywhere. And I'm looking at these books and I'm deciding, all right, what am I gonna open first? I'm so excited. And for some reason, I'm like, this book, Profit First. Everyone's been saying it. I might as well just see what it's about. And I crack it open, and I'm probably not even into chapter 2 yet. And they're not even very long chapters.
Yeah.
And it was definitely the epitome of a light bulb moment for me of what that book talks about, what it addresses. Because at this time with Spark, I had maybe about 80 to 100 clients, I think, at this point in my career when I read Profit First. And I was meeting with them, and I think I had 3 or 4 full-time employees who were starting to meet with them as well. And it didn't matter how many times I met with them, how many emails, how many calls, no matter if I stood on my head or, color-coded their financials, they were not listening to me when I told them what to do. Like, they loved me and they loved talking to me and they loved, laughing with me, but they weren't actually changing anything about their business. And they had the same struggle over and over. And at that point, I was kind of ripping my hair out. Like, what is it going to take to get these people to listen? And Profit First, 1,000% addressed that. It was just about putting an intention behind every dollar first.
Yep.
And that showing you what your business needed. It was that. So that light bulb moment was huge for me. I jumped off my chaise lounge chair. I go running back to the hotel room. I call the number. There's a number, like if you want to be a Profit First professional, I didn't know what it meant. Ron Saharian, who was the co-founder, answered the phone at the time because they were only 2 years old, I think, at the time that I called.
I love this.
Ron answered the phone. It was like the 4th of July week, so I don't even know why he was in the office. Probably isn't now, but he was then.
Oh, I'm sure he had it on his cell phone.
Yeah, I would probably. And I'm like, yes, yes. And we're chatting. And then he's like, okay, great. We'll sign you up. And then and as a side thought, we also have this mastery. Oh, sign me up. I'm like, mastery. I was all in. I'm like, this is it. This is what my clients need. It was all about how I could service my clients with this. So I got on board with that and then went to their first Profit Con. And the rest is history. I mean, I have to say that of my current clients, I only got a small handful to buy in. And I wasn't a hard sell. I was like, you're crazy. If you want to make money, let's do this. No? Okay, let's not do this. And I wasn't, but it was all the new clients coming in that I was introducing to that signed on, and they were transforming over and over and over again. I'm like, this is the best decision I've made. So that was hands down great. And by now, I'd say we have about 60% of our full client list is probably doing Profit First. Why they all don't do it, I don't know, man, but that's up to them. I've already told them a million times about it, whatever, right? I got bigger fish to fry. Then in terms of me writing the derivative, what was interesting is only a couple of years after I met Mike and joined with Profit First Professionals, he had approached me because he knew my background in restaurants. And I was like, oh, I'm not a writer. I'm not an author. Like I'm busy. I'm building an empire. I didn't even think about it. Didn't even take it seriously. Fast forward a couple years and I was looking for a project. I was thinking, should I open another restaurant? I have some ideas. I'm always writing business plans as it's like a hobby that I do because I like to invent businesses. They're usually food related. Do I do that? I don't know. My kids are still young and that's going to take a lot out of me. And I want to be available for my kids right now. I'm like, I don't know. And I ended up getting on a call with Mike for another reason. He was calling me about something completely different that he was working on. And another, I swear, I'm not even kidding, a light bulb moment, Roger, went on during this phone call. And I interrupted Mike. I'm like, Mike, I'm sorry, off topic. Did anyone buy the rights to Profit First for restaurants yet? And he's like, I don't know. Are you interested? I go, I might be. Hold on. He checked with his personal assistant, got back on. He's like, no, nobody. He's like, we've had some interest, but nobody. I go, I want that. I just knew in that moment that I didn't want anyone else to write that book. That was literally the impetus. Like, no, that's my book to write because I'm so passionate about the restaurant industry. It is my biggest niche at the time. It still is. I'm passionate about it. I love it so much. I love Profit First and what it has done for all of these small businesses that I work with. Why not put the two together? I'm looking for a project. It all just came aligning in this one other light bulb moment. I said, just send me the paperwork. I'm doing it. I don't even care how it works. I'm doing it. And then I got in and then met with his editor and that, it took me about 2 years, but I wrote it, poured everything I had, all my stories from my restaurants, all these other restaurants that I work with. And it's one of the best things I've ever done. And the feedback that I've been getting from across the world, which is amazing. Australia loves me, Roger. Who knew? I've never even been to Australia. New Zealand. Awesome. Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love it.
Well, it's a narrative that relates everywhere. Money is the universal language. So there you go. You want to think love is, but money is. So there you go. So the thing that's fascinating to me and that I can relate to is a similar epiphany that really helped in the advisory services that we offer. We have a division of our company called Universal Business Builders where we do consultative work, not consultative, I apologize, advisory work. And with the advisory work that we do, one of the biggest things is, we have 5 areas of focus. And the biggest one that resonates, that causes people as business owners to engage in conversation with us and ultimately pay, is the emphasis we put on profit. It's that matters most to them. So the 5 things that we do is engage and manifest. Doesn't really resonate with the business owner, but it's hugely important in the client journey. The other is understanding accounting. They're not going to pay to understand accounting, but it's essential. It's critical to their success. The third is increasing revenue. Well, obviously that appeals to them. So that's one of those ones that draws them forward of, you can help me make more money. Yeah, we can do that. But when you say improve profit, like, hold on a second, you can help me improve profit and actually keep the money I'm making. Yeah, let's talk about it. And that really resonates with them. The fifth being build value. They have an asset. They own a company that ultimately is going to have an exit and they're going to get something for it. And we talk about what it is you can do to kind of control that narrative of what the financial worth of the company is, what that value is. And when you talk about valuation, for so many business owners, it's too far in the future that it just doesn't really resonate. What of all the 5 things really gets their attention? It's improving profit. It's this profit first philosophy. It's making profit intentional and deliberate. So I do resonate with that. So here's the last thing I want to ask. This has been a phenomenal conversation though. World traveler, you travel a lot. Give me where you like to go. What do you like to do?
Oh my God, this is probably terrible. I say world traveler in my mind, in my readings, but no, I do travel. Lately, it has been mostly to very warm tropical locations because I need to zen out.
Uh-huh.
I go 150 miles an hour every single day. So I just have to say, I make sure I plan my trips. I'd like to do 4 a year. I think I do 3, and they're all heat related. So Aruba is just amazing. So that's, sort of a world traveler, right? Aruba. I'm
Yeah.
huge into Bahamas.
Yeah.
And then I live here, by Cape Cod and the islands. So we have a lot of restaurant clients on Nantucket. So I love Nantucket. I love Cape Cod. Those
Beautiful.
are probably my go-to right now. Those 3. My world traveler. I've been to Europe a few times, and probably need to go now again. I went when I was younger, and I was too ambitious probably to be there and sit still. But basically, I have to say that for a business owner that really doesn't want to have to think hard or do a lot on it, like needs that down decompression time.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to say that like Aruba, because it's guaranteed weather, it never changes. It is, it's beautiful enough. It is just, they love hospitality there. Wherever you go, they are so welcoming. There's just something about that island. And even I've been going to Paradise Island in the Bahamas since I was 21 years old. It's my second home. And you can literally feel the hospitality in those islands, which I love, but also it's just, those are just for me, those are my resetting. And I have done some of my best work, my goal planning, my self-work, my business planning, when I am in those places where you can just really just wind down. So yeah, so that's where I'm at now. And some people are like, oh, you're not, backpacking across the Andes. No, that's not me. No, I am definitely more of like a learner, a reader, and a sunshine girl.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm going to say, don't be a hater on me, but here's what I'm going to say. I've been trying to get to Aruba for a number of years. I've had two trips that were scheduled, arranged, and each got canceled. One was COVID related, totally put a kibosh on it. And then another one that was supposed to happen this year that didn't happen. But I also love the Bahamas. I go on cruises quite often, at least 2 a year. And I leave in 2 weeks to go on a cruise. So I'm going to be there in 2 weeks. And then coincidentally, I have a conference in London right after that. So I'll be traveling right after my cruise to London for a conference. So I'll get the European stint in here real shortly. So,
ooh, I was thinking about London, but New Zealand is really appealing. And I have a lot of readers in New Zealand. So I'm going to see if I can make a trip, maybe even a speaking trip out of that.
There you go. Do it. All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up. I think this has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate the things that we've discussed, but I'm going to point out an offer, and this is something that I want everyone that's listening to pay attention to. Kasey has a generous offer. It's a swag box that will actually include a book, her book, that is actually profit first for restaurants. And so it's basically something that you want to get because it's a book, a workbook, and all things money related. You just basically need to go to the episode description, and there you're going to find the information you need in order to get a copy for yourself and receive this swag box. So definitely check out the episode description and get your copy there. In addition to all of this, one of the things that I really want to emphasize is in the episode description, you'll also find an opportunity to get an ebook called Your Strategic Accountant. This is a book written for accounting professionals to understand what it is that the business owner is expecting as it relates to the services we provide. It literally goes into what is it they need from us as accounting professionals to, in fact, get their businesses to grow and develop. The other thing I want to point out is a book called Your Profit and Growth Expert. It gets into the advisory space and helps us understand how we as an accounting professional can actually advise our clients and step into that role of CFO and advisor and really help them out where they need us most. So with that in mind, go to the episode description, get it and many of the other things available there. In addition to all this, as a summary, I want to just kind of recap a few things. One, just the entrepreneurial drive of after getting out of college, going out and starting these restaurants. I love the ambition there. My wife is very drawn to food, and restaurants come up quite often. And so this whole essence of starting restaurants and getting into that space and being as successful as Kasey was amazing. But I really liked how it transitioned into the accounting space. Many of the individuals I work with are successful in various industries, and they're able to translate that success into the accounting space and thrive in their bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. And Kasey has done exactly that. The other thing that I really appreciated is when we were getting into the advisory conversation, it was the perspective. Remember, we were talking about how the business owner sees their business differently. The accountant needs to see that business in a similar light, not as an accountant, but in an advisory space, because there's a lot of things going on in the financials that the business is trying to communicate. And if we're not open to what it's trying to say, we're not going to be able to share that message and dive deeper into it. And I think that's something that we need to really kind of consider as we're working with each of our clients. The other thing that was really impactful is this journey of now incorporating profit first into it. She basically was very articulate in saying, this is what the business owner needs to hear. This is what resonates, because this is what they're trying to do as a business, is be profitable. And so if we could actually, as accounting professionals, put an emphasis more on that bottom line and help them understand what it takes to be profitable, in fact, making it a priority, that's something that really can resonate with us, or with our businesses, as we're marketing to them, engaging with them as new clients, servicing them as a client. All these things are going to be helpful. And that just goes to her point, which she's been able to retain these clients for so many years now because of this interaction in an advisory capacity, doing their books, but also with the profit first emphasis. The other thing that I wanted to point out is the fact that not all the businesses will relate to this. She pointed out that 60% or so are actually implementing this. And I think that's true. Just recognizing that not everything is as important to everyone. And so what I mean by that is that as accounting professionals, we need to be sensitive to the needs of our clients. What is it that they're needing from us to run their businesses? And I think that's one of the things that would be a takeaway for me. So Kasey, what would you like to add as a final thought?
Oh, that was such a great recap on all of that. I have so many thoughts, Roger. I think my final thought would just be to not be afraid to give advice, strategic advisory services at all. I think that when I am coaching up my employees to be more advisory to the clients, and there might be a pause, a hesitation there, because what if I say the wrong thing? You can't really say that. If you understand the numbers and you know they're right, you can't say the wrong thing, and they need to hear this from you. So don't be afraid. If you are confident in your numbers, be confident that you can give them the advice that they need.
Awesome. Kasey, this has been an amazing conversation. So much wisdom here that I really appreciate it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up by saying, first and foremost, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, definitely do so. Like, share, get out there and implement these strategies in your business, but definitely subscribe to the podcast, because each and every week we come out with new episodes, hearing from the experts, those things that we need to be doing to work on our business. In addition to this, if you'd like to actually see past episodes, binge listen perhaps, you want to go ahead and now just play a number of these things as it relates to topics that matter to you, go to universalaccounting.com, and there in the episode, or in the navigation, find the podcast highlights. The podcast highlights happen to be playlists that we put together so that you can binge listen to those things that matter right now in your business, whether it be marketing, selling, pricing, mental health, just a variety of topics that we've put together from the experts for you to hear. In addition to this, we want to invite you to GrowCon. If you don't already have your ticket, we're excited to see you. GrowCon is an annual conference for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses, where we bring on stage those experts to help us actually address those things that we need to be doing as we're running our businesses to have the premier accounting firm in our area. It's here you also can interact with your peers, collaborate, make good connections, and most importantly, find out from the others that are doing what we're doing, what it is that's working from around the country and around the world. Lastly, you get to meet the team here at Universal Accounting Center, those individuals that are committed to your success so that you can be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal. So definitely register now, join us for GrowCon, and I look forward to seeing you. It's each and every May. This year, it's going to be in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, with that being said, I also want to point out that if you have interest in these topics and applying them in your business, feel free to reach out to us. You can contact us at universalaccounting.com, or you can visit us or call us by calling 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day and be safe out there.